Hello, welcome to Invictus Porsche. My name is Basheer Zaheer and we will be reviewing my favorite Porsche 911 here with us today. This is the 997 Generation 1 and for numerous reasons this is my favorite Porsche 911, and in this review we'll find out why that is. To really understand why this is my favorite 911, we've got to get behind the wheel and drive it so that I can illustrate a few things that are extremely attractive about the 997 Generation 1, especially the base Carrera with a 3.6 litre engine, rear-wheel drive, 5-speed manual. I mean, this has got all the right ingredients for a phenomenal little classic sports car. It's an absolute joy to be able to get into one of these, drive it, and essentially be a custodian of a Porsche 911. I'm a huge fan and I like from the get-go starting these properly. That is, turn the ignition, wait for that 6-second countdown, and once you start the car, ideally wait about 30 seconds so that it can idle and then drive it. But as the engine is a bit warm because we drove up here, let's just get into it. The 911 is such a practical car because of all the space and all the practicality from the 2+2 setup, the fact you've got this big boot at the front, and above all, it's a car that is comfortable and handles pretty well on a day-to-day, from a day-to-day point of view, unlike many other cars out there. Now, this is us just slightly cruising around, and it does everything that you need. You need the car to do. Because of the hydraulic steering wheel, it feels engaging. It feels that there is a bit of a driver input that is required, but overall, this is beautiful. It's sound, drives well, and the 997, unlike the 996, is perhaps a little bit more refined. Now let's put our foot down and hear that exhaust. And it sounds good. Now, from an engine point of view, this has the 3.6 litre flat 6 boxer 6 engine, so 6-cylinder. This produces 325 brake horsepower and 370 Newton meters of torque. And from a 0 to 60 miles per hour, perspective, this does that in 5 seconds. Let's get back onto the road. And in terms of an MPG, I mean, you can comfortably do anywhere between sort of 24 to 34 miles per gallon, depending on your style of driving. These are phenomenal cars. I mean, both from how they sound, how they handle, around corners, around bends, and essentially, yes, it's a rear-wheel drive car, but it's got that perfect balance that's been refined over so many years, and Porsche has made having the engine behind the rear axle to work phenomenally well. Now, in terms of what it feels like just being on the inside, from a noise point of view, it's not clunky, it is not noisy. As I said, unlike the 996, they're a bit more raw and harder, and to my liking, in some ways, you can get a bit fed up with the 996, but I guess the 997, obviously, the slightly revised suspension, the body shape, and the slightly refined interior, all of these make a huge difference. takes off so well. I mean, it's an absolutely exhilarating car. I mean, to be able to drive one of these, whether you're going to daily or whether you're going to have it in your garage and simply take it out for you, simply take it out over the weekend, I mean, you can't go wrong. And from a test drive point of view, I mean, I will give this, in terms of the 997, definitely the status, because it's a fantastic all-round car, by far to be my favorite. This is finished in this beautiful classic Porsche color, which is Arctic Silver Metallic, complemented by the 19-inch lobster claw alloys, which are finished in a sort of Orient grey color, complemented with a sunroof. In terms of on the back, you've got the sports twin tailpipes, the quad sort of an exhaust look to it rather than the rectangle boxy shape that you get on the base 911 997s, especially with a 3.6 litre engine. However, somebody's gone ahead and option to have the sports exhaust system. The 3.6 litre engine, as a matter of fact, is more reliable than the 3.8 litre, predominantly because they don't suffer from bore scoring, unlike the 3.8 litre, which are more known to suffer from bore scoring. This has had a bore check as well as a 111-point check, including an over rev report. I mean, this is a dream of a Porsche 911 for anyone out there. And I'm most impressed with the 997 in terms of that perfect balance between a classic and a sort of a modern car, an analog and a non-analog. You walk into the inside of it, this has got this Metropole blue leather interior, which again is absolutely jaw-dropping. And the interior design aspects that you find, such as the door handles in this, the way the hydraulic steering wheel gives you this feeling of engagement, the 5-speed manual transmission, the simple display that you get from Porsche, the fact that, you know, you've got a full-on leather interior and a 2+2 setup. This is really everything you would want in a sports class, in a sports car. And again, it sits really comfortably between a classic and a modern car, because essentially you've got everything you need to be safe on the road, but at the same time, don't get carried away, because you will lose your back and unfortunately end up hurting yourself quite badly. But what can I say? You know, other than the way it feels, it drives, other than the fact that the Porsche design, going back to the early Porsches as far back as the 1950s, they're elegant, they're timeless. I mean, the way these lines run through these cars, the way these front headlights look, and just the overall shape of these 911s, they haven't really changed, and I think this is what makes them so beautiful to look at, admire, drive, and essentially they have an absolutely phenomenal fan base, because it's not a sports car that has changed much. And in terms of my next review, it will actually be this being pitched against the Lotus Elise that we have in stock, a 2010 plate, and perhaps why for around £25,000 one should perhaps consider one of these than the Lotus Elise. But you know, each to their own. If you want something even more driver focused and I guess not really practical in all sense, then you go ahead and buy the Lotus Elise. But you want a car that is practical, that you can take your other half out and the kids out, store all your groceries in there, and feel like that this could be that daily car that you could essentially put 40,000-50,000 miles on. There you go. And at the end of it all, you're not going to lose a great chunk of money either. If you are interested, this is available with us in stock here at Invictus Motors. Any questions, feel free to reach out and I would be most happy to answer them, and see you in the next review. Thank you. Bye-bye.